The primary objective of the Rural Housing Loan Fund is to improve the basic living standards of low-income rural people through the provision of funding to qualified intermediaries. Now, low incomes, informal employment and relatively remote rural regions disqualify end users from dealing with major commercial banks. To find out more about this fund this morning, we are joined in studio by Jabulani Fakazi. Good morning and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Expand a little bit on the fund and how does it come about and which segment does it serve?
The Rural Housing Loan Fund was established by government in 1996. We are a mandate-driven organization in that we have to facilitate access to housing finance to low-income earners in rural areas. By low-income earners, we mean people who are earning 9,800 and less. They have to use money for housing-related purposes like building a new house, extending an existing house, connecting to services like water and electricity, as well as fencing their homes, just to improve the living environment in a rural homestead. And by rural, basically we mean areas that fall under communal land, like traditional land, as well as small towns across South Africa. So that's where we are focusing in terms of our mandate.
And how much can they actually get out of the fund?
It depends on the affordability of a loan. So when a borrower wants to build a house or improve his housing condition, he will go to our intermediary and submit an application form with required information such as proof of employment, exposure to other credit providers in terms of that. And then our intermediaries have to conduct credit assessment so that they can determine the actual size that the borrower can afford to take. They have to comply with the National Credit Act. So that's very important because the idea is not to push people into more debt. They must take loans that they can afford to repay.
Now, loan affordability, unemployment, major issues in South Africa at large. How do you deal with that situation?
Indeed, those are challenges basically that come from the state of the economy. Currently we know that in our country the unemployment is too high. Many people were retrenched during the last recession. What it simply means is that those people without income cannot afford to take loans. So that shrinks the size of our market, I would argue. And then in terms of loan affordability, of course, it's a challenge because we focus on the low-income earners. So they would aspire to take bigger loans so that they can quickly build their houses or improve their housing conditions. But the reality of the matter is that they have to take loans that they can afford to repay. So our intermediaries and ourselves basically encourage people in our market to take those small loans and build incrementally so that they don't find themselves overexposed into debt.
You're not necessarily using slightly more relaxed regulations as opposed to commercial banks, but you're just mainly focusing on low-income earners.
We focus on low-income earners, but as a government-owned entity that fulfills the government mandate, our approach is that we have to make sure that low-income earners take loans that they can afford. So what we try to do is basically to work with our intermediaries so that we give them the loan facilities at RALF at relatively low interest rates so that they can pass over the benefit to the low-income earners in our market. So that's very important for us to do that.
And the success of repayments?
I would say that's very good. Otherwise, RALF would have gone out of business a long time ago. Low-income earners, poor people in rural areas, when they take loans because they want to improve their living conditions, and they do repay. So we have had success in that respect.
Now, you keep referring to your intermediaries. Who are the players in that space?
We are working with a number of intermediaries who are commercial, or say retail lenders, who are registered with the National Credit Regulator. Just examples will be Lenco, who's based in Durban, but operating nationally, Bayport, again based here in Johannesburg, but operating nationally, Real People, which is based here in Johannesburg, operating nationally, Izwe, Norofin in the Northwest. It's quite a number of them, basically, who access loan facilities from RALF and then on lend to people in our target market.
Now, so do the borrowers go directly to your intermediaries or do they come to you as the Rural Housing Fund?
They go directly to our intermediaries because we are set up as a wholesale finance institution. We don't interface with the general public, but our intermediaries are in the call phase in terms of marketing loans. So what we do, we provide support in terms of, I would say, promoting incremental housing finance, which is appropriate for our target market. But apart from our intermediaries, what we are trying to do now is to identify community-based organizations. Because the challenge that we have realized is that people who are unemployed, who are self-employed, informally employed, basically they cannot produce, proof of regular income that is required by intermediaries to comply with the credit assessment requirements as required by the National Credit Act. So what we try to do is to identify community-based organizations across the country who can basically access funding from us and on lend to their members only, so that their members can, in fact, improve their housing conditions. The benefit of that is that in terms of National Credit Act, if a stokvel cooperative, it could be an association, but which operate along the stokvel principles, access funding and on lend only to the members, then the National Credit Act does not apply to them. But the advantage for us with that approach is that we can be able to reach the informally and self-employed people in rural areas, some of whom are getting social grants, getting remittances from their daughters and sons who are working in the big cities of South Africa. And then with that income put together, they can be able to afford to take loans from a stokvel, a cooperative, or an association, and basically be able to repay loans that they take.
Now, if you want more information on the Rural Housing Loan Fund, visit our website. It's www.growingtomorrow.co.za. Give us a call on our hotline 011-791-5658. We'll give you all the details so that you can be in touch. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.